Welcome back. In a moment, we'll look at efforts to end the practice of FGM, female genital mutilation. But first, here are some other stories to keep an eye on. Barack Obama has cancelled a meeting with controversial Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte after he made insulting comments about the US leader. Mr. Obama had promised to raise the issue of the state-sanctioned killing of drug dealers in the Philippines. He's currently in Laos on what's expected to be his final trip to Asia as president. Afghan security forces sealed off much of Kabul as they battled gunmen who'd barricaded themselves inside the offices of an international aid group. The attack follows a car bomb attack on Monday night. The aid organisation CARE International said all its staff were safe. And former UN Chief Kofi Annan has arrived in Myanmar's Rakhine state to chair a committee looking into solutions to the long-running conflict between the country's Buddhists and minority Rohingya Muslims. Local Buddhists marked his arrival by demonstrating against what they say is foreign bias towards the Rohingya. The United Nations calls female genital mutilation a violation of the human rights of girls and women. It's pledged to bring the practice to an end and banned it worldwide 4 years ago. But there are hundreds of millions of victims around the world, both in countries where the practice is commonplace and countries where migrant communities have brought it with them. The Waldfriede Hospital in Berlin is home to one of Europe's first genital mutilation treatment centres. Led by a team of experts in gynecology and pelvic surgery, an estimated 300 women have entered its doors, seeking a cure to a procedure that, in this part of the world, remains a taboo.
I don't remember so much when it happened. I had with 3 girls, 2 bigger, yeah, and they make first to them, and I was standing and watching on the corner. I remember a little when the girl, she's bleeding. After they make them sleep, come to me and they want to catch me. I ran. I'm little and I ran. They catch me. After that, I don't remember. No pain. I don't know. I'm faint or I don't know what happened. I don't remember nothing.
Female genital mutilation, or FGM, is the ritual removal of some or all of the external female genitalia. It's practiced in 28 African countries, as well as some parts of the Middle East and Asia. Up to 140 million girls and women have been subjected to the procedure. 3 million girls undergo FGM every year. It can cause lifelong physical and psychological problems, including severe bleeding, cysts, infections, and an increase in neonatal deaths. In 2014, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution which reaffirmed its call to ban FGM worldwide. But there are pressures from traditional communities, many of which believe the practice upholds a woman's modesty and honour. Increasing attempts by locals to dismiss these ideologies are seen as a positive step forward, but there's still a long way to go.
You cannot fight FGM if you don't know what it is. So being one of them that went through FGM, being one of them that understands the culture, it was so easy for me to talk to my people because they believed in me, they trusted me that I had gone through it. So what have I seen that is making me say no?
Well, joining us to talk about this via Skype is Gary von Gulick, who's the Deputy Europe Director at Amnesty International. And here in the studio by journalist Eliza Anyangwe, who's covered both gender and Africa. Ladies, welcome to the programme. Eliza, there is no medical reason for FGM, and yet, as a practice, it still persists in several communities. Why do they do it?
Well, culture and patriarchy, in my view. I think what is important to say from the off is that in cultures around the world, including here in London, in the UK, there are perceptions about what a woman should be, or how a woman should carry herself, and those cultures place pressure on the woman. And in countries like you have seen in the video across Africa and parts of Asia and the Middle East, that pressure results in girls being taken away from home to be cut, often by their grandmothers. So
it's the women perpetrating it against the women, even women who've had it done themselves.
Yes.
And know what the effects
Absolutely.
are and are doing it. And what are the physical and mental impacts of female genital mutilation?
Now, I've been fortunate to never have been cut, but I have friends and I've covered women who have. And of course, at the time, there's the excruciating pain. A lot of women are cut using dirty razor blades. There's a lot of bleeding. You can bleed out. Young women are known to have died in the process of being cut. Now, of course, there are three different stages, three different types of procedures. And so they're not all equally as damaging, but the psychological impact remains with a woman. I mean, if you're completely cut and sewn up, a little hole is left for you to urinate from. That pain, remains with you your whole life. You have to then be cut open to deliver a baby. So this is not something that just happens. It's not like male circumcision and you just sort of heal, just get over it.
It's very, very invasive and can be very, very damaging and leave you scarred physically and mentally.
Absolutely.
Gary, we know that some countries have banned FGM, Nigeria, Gambia, in fact 27 sub-Saharan countries have legislated against it. That's good news, isn't it?
Well, in principle, it's good. Banning of the practice, of course, is part of the package, but that's really all it is. It's part of a larger package, and I very much agree with my sister in the studio, is that we have to find a way to prevent this practice. Look at stereotypes, look at the rights of women in a more broader sense, and make sure that you're actually addressing this for what it is. It's a much deeper practice that actually is cross-religious, and in some cases cross-cultural. It has to do with the position of women and girls in society and how women and girls are viewed by men and are treated by men. And this is really the essential part that we need to look at also in European countries, because the United Kingdom might be quite forward in the sense that they are criminalizing FGM, they have, and they are prosecuting these cases. But I'd like to see the same vigor, the same energy when it comes to preventing it, and also when it comes to, for example, accepting asylum cases of women who are fleeing a risk of FGM in certain countries. And that's
I've read quite disturbing accounts of even in countries like the UK where it is banned and it is a criminal offence to take a girl out of the country for this procedure to be done. Some communities, some families are clubbing together and paying for a cutter to come into the country. So there seems to be ways around the legislation.
Well, I believe it's true, and I think what we have learned from research, but also what the World Health Organization is saying and others, is that you have to look at the whole picture. If the emphasis, the focus of community is on getting a woman into a community, making sure she's able to marry, and this practice being part of that ritual, part of that ability of this woman to function in society, you need to look at why is that the case, and removing that impetus. Otherwise, this is going to continue to happen, as is the case with other practices as well. But also, to be clear, this is a form of violence against women and absolutely needs to be punished where it is found. I just believe that it's, especially in this kind of practice, incredibly important to keep hammering on the fact that this is much bigger than just an incident of harm. It has to do with what it takes for a woman to be able to marry, to function in society, to go to school, to work, and all of that is tied to some of these very, very harmful practices that have developed in different cultures and different societies around the world, including in Europe.
Gary, thank you. So Gary makes the point, Eliza, that quite rightly, this isn't just about an act against women. This is tied up with equality, Absolutely. With women's position in society. So how do we change those perceptions? How do we get communities to voluntarily stop these cultural practices?
I think it's first by recognizing that there are people within these communities who already have been campaigning for, if I take the example of a small organization here in the UK, Forward UK, who have been campaigning on this issue for over 30 years. They've been swimming against the tide of the communities from which those women are from. So it's not like this practice has been going on and everyone in the community endorses it. It's about finding those champions, those people who don't have the visibility, who don't have the funding, who don't get invited into studios, who are doing the work within their community, often taking a lot of flack for it because they're seen as bringing in Western ideals, etc. And helping those people because they understand their own communities, helping them continue and amplify the messages that they're bringing.
Is the message getting through?
Of course, there are countries where the stats that came from earlier in the year that countries like Liberia, Kenya, not the legal side, but coupled with culture change, has seen numbers fall. So we need to advocate for grassroots voices in communities.
Okay. Eliza, thank you very much indeed for that. Thanks to both my guests, Eliza Anyangwe and Gary Van Gulik. Now, we end with our Insight Bite, a little something we feel you should know. So let's go back to water and some new technology helping an ancient profession. These solar tents in Malawi are helping the local fishing industry. They allow traders to dry their fish faster in a clean and controlled environment, meaning they can earn more money and improve lives in the community. So teaching a man to fish is useful, but giving him a tent to dry them in turns out to be even better. And that's all for now. I'm Shuli Ghosh. That was Insight.